Mhm. It's 9 o'clock on this Tony P. Tuesday.
Hello.
This is the Live Zone Prime Time. I'm producer Chris. That is the one and only Tony P.
How's the optical illusion looking on my tie
tonight? Thank you so much for
tonight?
joining us.
Look at
Tony
that.
P, let me take a look.
Look at that optical illusion. You have that.
It's not bad.
Combined with the shirt. I mean, I'll tell you, this is I'm gonna hypnotize all the people tonight.
It gives
okay?
it a good like sheen, a shine
Yes.
type of thing.
You
got the
will listen.
Purple shirt, pattern purple tie.
You will listen to my rundown, DC. You will listen to it because I have
They
the
will
magic
when
tie.
we get there, Tony P. But we have a lot to get
Yes,
through
I know.
first. First and foremost, though, we got to talk about the weather just real
Again?
quick. Only because when I stepped outside today, for the first time, it felt like, oh my
was
God,
balmy.
a break from the one of the most brutal winter stretches we have seen in a
And it's been multiple
long
stretches at a time. Like I'll tell you, I almost was gonna cut these in half and have like a suit with jorts on, or
I really wish you had. And I think
Destroyed
everyone
the-
out
one of the
there
only good
agrees
suits
with
I
me.
got.
If you agree that Tony P should have cut off his short pants, his suit pants, I should say.
how about a tank top with it too instead of a dress shirt? You know, that'd be kind of
Tony
nice.
P, give the people what they want.
You know, it's a great song by the OJs. Give the people what they want.
All right. Well, we'll have much more time for fun and Tony P in shorts and a tank
And
top
all my
coming up.
quirkiness.
First, though, we do need to get to the big story of the night, and that is from Arizona tonight. A major break in the search for Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. Today, the FBI released new images of a possible suspect in the case, reportedly taken on the morning Nancy went missing. FBI Director Kash Patel says the footage was recovered from residual data on the back end of Nancy's home security system, releasing the photos 10 days into the search. You can clearly see someone standing on the front porch of Nancy Guthrie's home, wearing a mask and gloves. The person tries to cover the recording device with their hand first before appearing to reach for a plant or a flower or something to obscure the view. The person also appears armed. Now, after authorities released the photos and the video, Savannah Guthrie shared a new statement on Instagram with the caption, quote, "Someone out there recognizes this person. We believe she is still out there. Bring her home." Savannah and her family have released multiple messages over the last 10 days, each more dire and serious than the next. For more on the investigation now, the new surveillance images and more, Mackenzie Joy Brennan is joining us live. Mackenzie is in Arizona. She is a trial attorney and a legal analyst. Thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the Live Zone Primetime, Mackenzie.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me. This case is just gutting, and I'm so glad that we have some movement on who a suspect could be and getting some more tips in.
So first and foremost, what was your reaction to seeing this new surveillance video and images out today?
Oh, it's shocking. It makes your blood run cold. You guys are talking about the cold weather out there. Nobody in Arizona is going to be wearing a balaclava and these gloves unless they are intentionally trying to obscure themselves. I mean, I'm outside right now and it's nighttime and I'm in a dress and a blazer. So this is somebody clearly intentionally trying to obscure their look, their fingerprints, their facial features. And then when they pick up the brush, it's pretty clear that that also is their intention. I'm not sure why this took so long. I think it had something to do with the fact that she did not have a Nest subscription, and so it was a little more difficult to get some of the data off of the camera, but I feel like this could be a huge development, and we've already seen an uptick in tips that come into law enforcement agencies.
Do you think that the release of this video potentially is a strategy on the part of law enforcement to potentially draw out the individual, the kidnapper that's a part of this, or is there another strategy behind this with the release of this, this harrowing tape? I can't stop looking at this. This is like just so scary in the worst way.
It's so rattling, and
Yeah.
I think you're right. Those were kind of the two options in my head. Either it legitimately did take a while from Nest, and sometimes those things, especially if you're subpoenaing a tech company, they do take a while. But the other thing could be that they were holding back on some information with the hopes that somebody would come forward. I thought that when they opened the house pretty early on to the family, that maybe they were trying to bait somebody coming back to get the medication that they had spoken about. So we obviously don't know everything that they know, and that's a good thing. And I do think, to your point, that also could be part of why they waited.
So Mackenzie, I'm not sure if you've seen this, but just here in like the last hour or so, TMZ was reporting that they saw some activity in the Bitcoin account that had been mentioned in the ransom note. Do you know anything about that? And do you know if, we know the family said they were willing to pay.
Yeah, I don't know anything about this new development. I know that Bitcoin tends to be very hard to trace, but I'm sure if anybody can do it, it's likely the FBI in a case like this. And I also know that the FBI had said that it's ultimately up to the family if they want to pay or decide to pay. So it's possible that even without law enforcement level confirmation that this is actually connected to the kidnapping, that the family could decide, you know what, let's just be safe and pay these people before the timeline expires. And that could be what happened here.
There were also developments that said potentially that the suspect is a part of the Tucson community or in the area in Arizona. That plus the video that you've seen and what's been released, what does that tell you about the potential profile of this kidnapper, potential motives, and could there be a resolution down the line depending on the profile of this individual?
Yeah, that's such an interesting detail. And the only thing I can assume that they're basing it on, unless, again, they have more info that they're holding close to the vest, is that nothing triggered alarm bells in local neighborhoods, that there was an out-of-state plate or strange people hanging around. That's the only thing I can think that would certainly say that it's somebody from Tucson. But Tucson itself, and especially the Catalina Foothills area, it's small, it's pretty low crime. It's an affluent, quiet neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lives. So that's shocking if it was somebody from her own community. But I'm wondering if that maybe says something about the Bitcoin account. Can they actually trace it to a geography? Is that possible?
Right. And do you think, based on the video that you've seen, the way that this person interacted with the camera, does that say anything about what the profile of this potential kidnapper is and their motives, or is it kind of wait and see at this point with the information that we have?
Yeah, probably both. I think it's very disquieting how confident this person looks, and the fact that they so quickly move to cover the lens shows that this is not somebody who is toying with committing a crime. It's not somebody who didn't come in here with a plan, and I think that is probably the most disquieting piece. You know, they come with the fist forward, and they cover the lens, and then they pick up brush, and later, obviously, we know that they knew well enough to remove it from its setting. So I think that's probably the clearest indication that this was very premeditated if we didn't already have that.
Mackenzie, we know that the deadlines that were mentioned in the ransom note have passed. One was set for Friday, one was set for Monday. Has there been any word whether the family has had any contact with these potential abductors?
No, in fact, from law enforcement, they said that they were not aware of any more contact between the family and the folks behind the most substantiated ransom demand, the one with which we're all familiar. But again, that wording to me is very intentional, and it says that, you know, we're not privy to it, but they are allowed to do something of their own volition if they feel that it's prudent, if somebody reaches out to them. You know, we've all watched crime shows where kidnappers say don't involve law enforcement. It sounds like law enforcement is leaving that avenue open to the family in the hopes that any sort of communication can happen. And Savannah Guthrie herself, you know, she's a lawyer. I imagine if anybody could navigate a situation like this pretty well on her own and for behalf of the family, it would be her. So who knows what's happening from the family side.
Based on the social media posting from the Guthrie family, Savannah Guthrie, the FBI, and other local law enforcement, what does this tell you about how the operation is looking on the ground with receiving tips, the coordination between federal and state partners? And have we seen this in the past with cases like this where there has been this kind of coordination?
You know, this is such a strange case in terms of kidnapping and there being what seems like an at least somewhat credible ransom demand, and yet it getting to this point of being 10 days out without any indication to this point. I was very glad to see that there was some movement because I felt, you know, just from pattern recognition and how cases similar to this, similar enough. I mean, it's very rare that you get the mother of a national news anchor held captive potentially. But it felt like we were getting to the point where finding a person alive was less likely, that there was no movement in terms of suspects being announced, and then we got this. There was a real lull in hope, at least from a lot of us in the public, when that deadline came and went. But now we have this, and that does kind of reignite some hope, especially with the tone of some of the Guthrie's last videos, which did really reinforce we believe she is alive. And so I think hope is still alive with that.
I'm glad that there is. That's huge.
All right, Mackenzie, Joy Brennan, live in Arizona for us. Thank you for lending some of your expertise with us tonight here on the Live Zone Primetime.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and of course, if any developments come in over the course of the next hour, we will bring them to you live.
Yep.
As we take a live look at Ann Guthrie's house in the Tucson area. Like, Tony, like we've said for the last 10 days, basically, this is one of those stories that has unfortunately fascinated the entire country, if not the entire world.
It has, and again, we continue to send our prayers and our love to the Guthrie family, Savannah Guthrie, everyone surrounded in this case. We hope and pray that law enforcement continues their work to bring this person to justice and bring Nancy Guthrie home. And I think what's interesting is, I do feel that in the last, was it been 10, 12 hours since that video was released, and some of the tone that we just mentioned on air here, I have a lot of faith myself that Nancy Guthrie's still alive, because based on whether it be some of the reports about the Bitcoin activity, if that is confirming, it hasn't been confirmed yet. TMZ has that, but has not been confirmed by those federal or state partners yet. And the Tucson development, again, that has not been confirmed yet either, but these are things that are floating around. If those things are true, in combination with the footage we got today, it is pretty good potential that I think Nancy Guthrie could be alive. And I think that's it's a great moment for anybody who's, of course, praying for her safe return. I think this is definitely, a positive step in the right direction to finding her, getting her home safe, and bringing this awful kidnapper to justice. But, I think Savannah Guthrie is a beloved news anchor, journalist, TV host, and just absolute professional. I think she's very beloved around the country and around the world. I think that is why people are rallying around her. They rally around anybody going through this awful situation. But I think it's, her and her mother's a wonderful human being from what we've heard from all the reports. I think this is just one of the most tragic stories. Because again, just how incredible of a woman that Nancy Guthrie is, and how beloved Savannah is in the U.S. and around the world.
No question. Like I said, we'll keep an eye on any new developments as they come in. In the meantime, we're taking you out to our Fox 5 Skycam at the Wharf. A cold night, but feeling a little better than it had been. Coming up next, we're going to bring things back local. We are going to talk about some of the major developments in the investigation into the shooting at Wootton High School in Rockville, Maryland yesterday. We're also going to hear from some members of the Parent Teacher Student Association about their call to action to the county council tonight at a meeting, and also the latest on the boundary study and proposal by the superintendent to close Wootton High School as part of this plan to move students to Crown in Gaithersburg. We're going to have a discussion coming up on the other side of the break. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
All right, can you hear us? Testing.
Hi. Yes.
Hi. Great.
Okay.
Lot to talk about. Okay.
20. See you later.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Primetime on this Tuesday night.
Yep. Again, a lot of news flowing through here, and
Lot
again, if it's
of
live,
news going on.
we're always with it.
Tony, it's been an emotional 30 hours or so for the Wootton High School community. Obviously, this was our big story last night and remains our big story
Sure was.
here today. It's also been a busy 30 hours for the same community because today police, school administrators, and even the Montgomery County Council held meetings to talk about yesterday's shooting. There were two at the school at 3 and 6 p.m. Then there was another hearing at 6:30 with the county council. But not only focused on the shooting, also before today's shooting, the county council was set to hold a capital improvement plan hearing to talk about the recent boundary study and superintendent's proposal to close Wootton High School and send students to what will be the new Crown High School in Gaithersburg. So tonight we did want to talk about both topics, and joining us once again live is PTSA, the Parent Teacher Student Association President Brian Rabin. He was with us last night. He's also joined by Lisa Sondheimer and Rebecca Jacobs. They are two Wootton moms who are also part of the PTSA task force. Thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so I want to get to you guys in just a second. First, though, we did want to get a quick update on the investigation into that shooting yesterday. Police identified the suspect in the shooting as 16-year-old Khalil White Villatoro. They also said before the shooting, he pointed his weapon at another student, a 15-year-old girl. Villatoro was originally scheduled to appear in court for a bond hearing this afternoon, but because the processing for his detention went past midnight, the hearing was pushed to tomorrow at 1 p.m. He is currently being held without bond. Police said the victim who was shot and Villatoro are acquaintances. However, they are still investigating the nature of that relationship and the motive. Meanwhile, school was open today, but there were no classroom instructions. Many students stayed home. Montgomery County Public School System says those will be excused absences. Those who did return to school had a number of resources available at their disposal. So first and foremost, Lisa and Rebecca, I want to start with you and just ask how your children are doing after what happened yesterday.
Sure. Thank you for asking. You know, I would say it goes in waves for me, for my kids. Sometimes they're fine, and other times the reality sinks in. It was a rough night. It was hard to settle down to go to bed, and my younger one, who's my 9th grader, woke up very, very early this morning. So just kind of working through all the feelings and talking about it and letting him know that he's safe and he's free to express whatever he needs to express.
Yeah, I had 2 sons in lockdown. I had one son who was locked down at Wootton. My other son was locked down at Fallsmead, the elementary school. I obviously couldn't communicate with my elementary school child, but I was in close communication with my son. It's the text you never, ever, ever think you're gonna get, and then you do. Mom, where's the shooter? I don't know. Mom, where is the shooter? Is he in the building? I don't know. The only thing that I kept trying to reassure him was that there were police surrounding the school. And I kept saying, you're safe, they are there, they are there. Tell your friends they are there, they are surrounding you. And they are aware of the situation. And so it was incredibly traumatic for all the students. We appreciate all the teachers who were in the rooms, keeping children calm, keeping order. Everyone did an incredible job. It is very hard to be a teacher, and they did an incredible job. Last night for my little one, it was very hard. We had to explain to my 3rd grader that a boy was shot, and he's in 3rd grade. And the reason I had to use the words and tell him is because he has a brother in the high school, and I knew he would find out, and I had to tell him before he found out at school. And he said, he couldn't believe it happens in real life. And so it was incredibly difficult. He slept in my bed last night for him to fall asleep. He didn't want to go to school today. He did go to school. My older son did not.
Lisa, Rebecca, thank you for telling your story and talking about this. This is just horrific, and no parent should go through this. Let me ask you this: What are some of the resources and communications you've had with the district today, and what's been going on from a resources perspective to help students and parents during this, just horribly tragic time?
There were 2 meetings held at school. My own child didn't go to school. I do know there were resources. Unfortunately, the power went out at Wootton today. They have a lot of problems with the building,
Wow.
and today the power went out. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. And so hopefully they were still able to deliver whatever messages they had to give.
Yeah, I heard that that MCPS had, I think they said 100 counselors in the school building to assist students. My kids were both home today. Their friends were home today. Correction, I took my son this morning to pick up his backpack because when students who were in lockdown were escorted out of the building to be reunified with their parents, they weren't allowed to take anything with them. So he was really nervous about getting his belongings and what would happen to them. So I took him and we picked them up, and then I brought him back home.
So Brian, it's been about 24 hours since we chatted last time, and we talked about the delayed response basically from both the superintendent and police 6+ hours before they addressed the community in front of the cameras. I know that there was messaging happening behind the scenes to parents from the school. Over the past 24 hours, are you satisfied with the response?
So I think the communication could have been better. The communication was very confusing. We were getting some communications during the lockdown and while police were searching for the shooter. But after the lockdown was ending and police were clearing the building, it was very confusing messaging in terms of whether to go to the reunification site, which was one message, and then the other message said, "Don't go yet." So I know during an emergency like this, it is hard to get clear communication out, but the communication was a bit confusing as parents were moving one way and then the other way.
So Brian, in a statement, the PTSA wrote today that today we grieve, tomorrow we support, and always we stand Wootton strong. I want to start with you. What does Wootton strong mean to you?
We're a strong community. We stick together. Our cluster schools, we have 9 schools within the Wootton cluster. We work together. We stick together. We are Wootton strong.
And when looking at this entire case, one of the things that's been discussed in the county has been things like metal detectors in schools, for example. That's one of the big debates that's been happening in meetings as well as even before this horrible situation. What is your opinion, Brian, in terms of what the parents are looking for? Is this a policy that people want to see implemented now post this, or is there still some questions in the community about the efficacy of a system like this?
So we did hear from the superintendent at our parent meeting today. He talked about metal detectors. Metal detectors are not necessarily the right solution. There's many entry points within the school, and logistically, metal detectors would make getting into the building extremely difficult. But there is technology today that is available, and I know that the superintendent mentioned that they're testing some new AI technology to see if that will work. But there is a lot of technology that is available today that is not as intrusive and requiring a lot of security guards to operate. And so that may be a way to go. Now, the superintendent did mention that they're increasing the number of cameras and security and police presence through the end of the year.
So the 2 meetings at 3 and 6 today were not town halls. They were more about ways to talk to your students and cope and kind of deal with the aftermath of what happened yesterday. But the county council hearing at 6:30 tonight, Lisa and Rebecca, I know you were both there. You were both planning to speak. And before we get into the boundary issue, I know that you had planned on issuing a call to action when it came to school safety. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that includes?
Yeah, I am only speaking. I can only speak for myself. I would personally like to see the return of SROs, which were removed from schools. I don't think it's fair to want your police enforcement to run into schools only into an emergency, but not allow them to be in school before tragedy strikes. They create relationships, they know the kids, and there could have been someone in the building when someone got shot in a hallway. And so again, I'm not speaking for anyone, but myself, I know some people might not agree or disagree, but it was an incredible resource and the principals advocated for it, and it was removed. And it was removed by the county council. And when I spoke today, that is something I didn't mention.
Are there also, or were there things discussed in the meeting with things that entailed more mental health that are longer term, not just for crisis intervention, but for longer term mental health sustainability, to make sure that students actually get the help that they need and there is early intervention before something like this happens again? And as parents, Lisa and Rebecca, is that a thing you'd like to see the district invest in for preventative mental health as opposed to just reacting and having, crisis in a moment like this?
I know.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I should have went one after the other.
One of the things we also discussed is the building is crumbling. There's asbestos, there's mold, there's rats. When your building is filled with disorder, you act accordingly. So if you don't feel like you matter, if you don't feel like your building is worth fixing, all the mental health PowerPoints, it doesn't matter. What matters is that children walk into a school, feel seen and feel loved by their teachers, which they do, but you cannot hide the mold. You physically see it. It makes you sick to your stomach, and the building is a disaster. I mean, the fact that the power went out when they were probably giving a PowerPoint about mental health kind of sums it. So if your building, and many buildings across MCPS are failing, it is not just Wootton, it's Magruder, it's Damascus, and we feel for all of them. It sends a message, we don't care about you. We don't care about getting you fixed, and it's devastating. It's devastating to the kids. They feel it.
I can
They
imagine.
feel like they're.
Yeah.
Hey guys, before we continue, I do just want to hold tight just for 1 second. I do just want to say that ABC News is now reporting that someone has been detained in connection to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. We're going to work on that story behind the scenes. We'll have much more on that coming up in just a little bit. But I want to stay with you guys, and I want to stay on that subject. And Lisa, I want to ask you, are you worried at all that what Rebecca just mentioned, the power outages, mold, rodents, anything like that, and then what happened yesterday is going to have any impact on any possible decision whether or not to close Wootton High School?
Oh, that's a loaded question. Okay, so in short, starting backwards, I really hope they don't close Wootton. I feel like that really is, everybody loses with that. They built a new school, Crown High School, to alleviate overcrowding for the Gaithersburg area. Closing Wootton and relocating that population into the population that was made for future growth defeats future growth possibilities. Rockville is also developing as well. Those students have nowhere to go if Wootton is not a permanent high school. Going backwards, in terms of with your question with prevention, I think prevention is everything. I think maintenance is everything. If the building was kept up with basic maintenance like you do with your house, we wouldn't be in this situation. Most of the schools in MCPS would not be in this situation. I think prevention also speaks to the shooting incident that happened. I think if SROs were there, I think if we had counselors who were making connections, meaningful connections with students and getting to know them, they would know where to go if they were feeling frustrated or bullied or not safe or whatever it is. We have a new principal, new staff, new guidance counselor department. There are so many things that I feel like this was preventable. It's a really, really tragic situation.
So Brian, is it safe to say that a lot of the issues that the school is facing, that parents are frustrated by, comes down to Montgomery County Public School System investing in Wootton?
Yeah, there's been years of deferred maintenance, and because of that, as Lisa said, just basic maintenance would keep the school in good shape. There should be no schools like Damascus and Magruder with mold and rodents and other things that are making it not healthy learning environments and working environments. And so, yeah, that deferred maintenance makes a big impact. The budget is tight. We keep hearing it. Wootton has been knocked off of the capital improvement program for over the last 17 years. So has Damascus, so has Magruder. Other schools really need to be rebuilt. They claim, MCPS talks about the need for a secondary holding school. And they're now saying that with this option, they're going to make Wootton the secondary holding school. And Wootton is not in a good shape. If they're going to fix it up to make it a holding school, then they should be able to fix it up for our own students. And there is a lot of growth that is projected in Gaithersburg and Rockville. And Crown was built to relieve overcrowding at the schools within Gaithersburg and Richard Montgomery and Rockville. And if they do if they do move Wootton over to Crown will be at 95% capacity. They'll be pulling capacity out by closing Wootton, and we're going to have reduced capacity rather than increased capacity. And as the mayor said tonight, you cannot build more housing without school capacity. They need school capacity, and taking it away just doesn't make sense.
Brian, do you think that there is adequate communication from the City Council, MCPS, and parent-teacher organizations like yours where they're on the ground, they know the issues, or do you think there needs to be an improvement in terms of communication and taking feedback so that the schools like Wootton are not left off the capital improvement projects in the future?
No, I can tell you personally, I've been advocating for 14 or 15 years. I work with other PTSA leaders. We work with the Montgomery County Council PTAs. We're all advocating for the capital improvement program and for the increased money that's needed to support our schools. The superintendent recently, a few months ago, provided a presentation where he talked about being decades behind in capital improvement programs. $700 million in HVAC systems that need to be replaced. There is an incredible amount of deferred maintenance, decades worth, and Montgomery County does not have the money to support that. So what do? We're in a challenging predicament, but we got to be creative. We need creative people thinking about innovative solutions, innovative financial processes, using public-private partnerships, and finding just creative approaches to make sure, because we should not have thousands of students and teachers in buildings 5 days out of the week, 10 months out of the year. It just doesn't make sense for them to be an unhealthy environment. It impacts long-term health. That's not how our public facilities should be.
Lisa and Rebecca, to speaking about tonight's meeting, was there anything that happened in it that gave you hope for the future of Wootton High School?
Well, you just kind of testify, and then it's a blank stare. But I hope they heard us. If I was a council member sitting there, hearing all these families, all these children testify about the conditions. A teacher talked about multiple miscarriages and asthma. A child talked about rats in her school. This is Montgomery County, one of the wealthiest counties in America. I have spent my entire career teaching in low-income schools. I can say that Wootton matches. I've taught in Anacostia, I've taught in the Bronx, I've taught in Chicago. And when you walk into Wootton, it feels similar. And I've been working to make public schools better. I do not want any school, any child being in a school with mold. It is not about your zip code. As Brian said in his testimony, mold doesn't discriminate. And so we are urging MCPS, the county council, the BOE to sit in those testimonies. I would be like shaking in my beds. Like I want to be able to sleep tonight knowing that I am responsible for all of these schools. We are serving we are sending our kids to school to learn. We are doing our best as parents. I don't even have the words, and I'm struggling to find them, of how devastating it felt to listen to all of these people sending their children and these teachers in these conditions. It is unacceptable. We demand better. We really do.
Brian and Lee, you good, Chris?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, sorry, go ahead,
No,
sure.
I was just gonna say,
Yeah, sorry.
well said. Like it just, unfortunately, I don't even like to speaking plainly. Hope has become a four-letter word. We give them their facts, we give them their data, we advocate for ourselves, and we're left with silence.
And we are not a suitcase that you could like carry and like put down.
Yep.
We are an actual community. We're real people.
Absolutely. Now, my final question is this: for any parent out there, in America, in the area, that that is listening to this, what would be your advice for them in their communities to make sure that their schools are continuing to stay up to par, as well as making sure their community is prepared and can prevent a horrible situation from this to ever happen again? What would be your advice to them as they look at this tonight?
Well, my advice is I hope you have people like Brian and Lisa in your corner. Brian's been advocating since our kids were in first grade. Lisa literally puts in work orders herself. She has 100 work orders on a spreadsheet. Wow. So if you are surrounded by Brian and Lisa, you will be okay. If you're not, become the Brian and Lisa in your community. Don't wait. That would be my advice.
My advice is get involved. Just get involved. No, don't be scared for your school system to know your name. It's a compliment. They know that you're serious. They know that you're watching, and they have to answer. So sorry, Brian.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we're volunteers. We are very hardworking volunteers. Give a little time back to your schools, work with your PTAs or your PTSAs, and help out, because we need parents to help out. It's a very small group, but we spend a lot of time, and we work with the principal. We work with MCPS. We work with other organizations. Everything we can do to make our voices heard, to try to get things in better shape for our students and teachers.
And buy your child a portable charger. My son's battery was down to 2% before we were reunited. That portable charger.
That's really, yep.
Brian,
real practical.
Very much so. Brian, before we go, just what is the next step? And if people want to get involved, where can they go to do that? How can they reach out to you to do that?
Yeah, so our next step is the county council will be making a decision on the capital improvement program in next month. To get involved in the boundary study and this terrible idea to relocate Wootton, there'll be public hearings coming up. There's one on February 23rd. There's one on March 9th and March 10th, and there'll be plenty of opportunity. I would encourage people to sign up, testify, and even if you don't feel like you want to testify, come out and support. We need the support. We want to keep our school where it is, and we want other schools to be able to get their renovations done. They need it too. It's many schools, and we want to support everybody.
All right, Brian, Lisa, and Rebecca from the Wootton PTSA, thank you guys so much for spending some time with us here on the Live Zone Primetime and making your voices heard to the community.
Thank you for having us.
God bless you all, and sending the blessings.
Stay in touch too. We want to hear more, and we want to hear from more parents too. That QR code is the key to being able to do that. We'll check back in with you guys soon. In the meantime, we do want to get back to that breaking news we talked about a little bit earlier. According to reports and sources on the ground in Arizona, there has been one person detained in connection to the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. This is coming in from Michael Ruiz. He is a Fox News, New York-based investigative reporter for Fox News Digital, but he is reporting that one person has been detained, not arrested, in connection with the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. However, the big key here is they say that Nancy Guthrie has not been found yet. We will stay on top of this. We will have much more as it comes in. In the meantime, we're going to take another quick break. We're going to change gears again. We're going to talk about Valentine's Day because it is right around the corner, whether you're ready or not. We're going to talk to a celebrity matchmaker all about Valentine's Day, dating in 2026, and much more. Stay with us. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
No, no. Yeah. Yes, I can hear you. Hi, how are you? Okay, great. Thanks. All right. What show was it on? I gotta look it up.
Gotta do this first.
Yep.
All right, welcome back to the Live Zone Prime Time. If you are just joining us, we are still following that breaking news from Arizona, taking a live look at Ann Guthrie's house in the Tucson area. According to Fox News's Michael Ruiz, one person has been detained in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. However, they say that Nancy Guthrie has not been found. The person is not in custody, just detained. We, of course, will have updates on this story as they come in. We will also have updates coming up on Fox 5 News at 10 at the top of the hour right here on Fox Local. In the meantime, Tony P., we do have to move on.
Yes.
And we have to talk about something a little more fun, a little lighter, and that is, of course, Valentine's Day, because it is right around the corner. It is Saturday. That means love is in the air, Tony P.
Already,
Are you feeling it?
I mean, I can feel Cupid around me. The pixie dust is here.
Tony P.
My heart's even a
took
little
an
bit
arrow
better.
in the ass is what he means.
Hey, listen.
Tonight we're talking all about love and relationships, Tony P.
I'm in for
That is
that.
what we are doing, all right? And we need some help to do it. We are talking about a celebrity matchmaker. Her name is April Davis. She is the founder of Luma Luxury Matchmaking, and she joins us now live here on the Live Zone Primetime. April, thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right, first and foremost, talk to us a little bit about Luma Luxury Matchmaking and what that is.
Yeah, so we are a concierge type of service, and it's for people that don't have time and don't want to deal with all the apps, but they're looking for a relationship, a commitment, and, the right kind of person that they can just go through life with. And so we are who you can outsource that whole process to, and we have our own proprietary database of individuals that we've been able to interview and see what they're like, so we can determine who would be a good match for our clients and then set them up on a date and introduce them.
Now, on a Valentine's Day week and day like this, there are a lot of people that are celebrating Galentines or being single, Singles Appreciation Day, they call it sometimes, right? What are some of the things that people who may not be in a romantic relationship could be doing during this time to get ready to potentially pursue a matchmaking situation like yours, or put themselves back out there in the dating world to potentially find someone by next Valentine's Day?
Yeah, there's so many ways to meet someone. You don't need to just pick up the app and get on there and think that you need to order up a person, right? That you could meet people out in the world. So I always tell people to go and do those hobbies or explore those interests that you may have always wanted to, but maybe you didn't have time. And when you are out and meeting people, make sure you smile, make sure you're open. Especially women, you need to be able to give guys an opening so they feel like they can approach you and they can talk to you. After the whole Me Too movement, it really kind of turned dating upside down on its head. And I think men are they're more scared, they're nervous to approach a woman. So nowadays, women, you have to go after what you want. And you have to, if that's a man, you have to be willing to go after him too.
Okay,
so I think that's one of the best things they can do.
Let's get into some of the nitty-gritty bullet points, okay? One piece of advice that you offer is dating outside of your type. What does that mean?
Yes. Well, so often people will tell me, like, oh, I want someone just like my ex, except, well, that except it means that it's a fantasy because that person does not exist. And it's time to do something different because we've all heard what's the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So you want to try to, maybe if you are, insistent that I will only date somebody within the city, and I don't drive. Well, maybe your person lives in Baltimore or something. You have to open up your radius and date a different kind of person, not just judging a book by its cover and like that physical type.
Okay.
So get out.
But what advice then do you have for all of those women out there who may say that they won't date anyone under 6 feet tall, for example? What do you say to the short kings, and what message do you have for the women out there who have height limits, maybe on their dating apps?
Well, okay, so that's another thing with all these apps. You have this idea, you think that there's just tons of people out there, and too many because it's 75% men. So women have to put some kind of filter in there in order to sort through them and find their person, right? So height is one of those filters that they feel they need to put in there. And it's just not realistic. It's like less than 1% of the population is over 6 foot tall. I think the average man is 5'9" in the US. Right. So if you want to get real, if you want to find a real relationship, you have to be open-minded as to what kind of package that person can come in.
One of the things that, especially like as a young guy and being on social media, that I have found is this, healthy masculinity and healthy dating and things of that nature, which I think are really, really good, and I think it's important. What are some things that you have seen in your research and work that men can really work on to be better partners, to be better in the dating world, and just being able to make a connection? Because we, are seeing a male loneliness epidemic. Again, that's coined. That's kind of, again, there's no total proof of that, but I think that's one thing we're seeing on social media. What are some of the things that men can work on to become those partners they want to be?
No, I think there is definitely a loneliness epidemic. I've heard it time and time, not just for men, it's women, it's everyone. And I think you're right. I think people are going in the right direction as we become more knowledgeable about just psychology and understanding interpersonal skills and relationships, being consistent, following through on plans, making plans, taking the lead. When you hear of women going to Home Depot in order to try to find their man, that's telling you something. They're looking for a guy that is not afraid to be the man in the relationship. And even though she might be a boss babe, and very successful and all those things, she still wants someone that she can depend on and feel like maybe she can let her femininity out at home and be comfortable with her man at the end of the day. So it's doing those types of things. It's taking on that leadership role. It's taking on the responsibility and maybe just planning the date, picking her up. It goes back to like just kind of old fashioned, really, at the end of the day.
All right, so you also say to be clear about your goals and expectations and be willing to have a conversation about them up front.
Right. So often people will say, well, let's just, go out on a couple days, let's see where it goes. Well, that just tells me that this person is not looking for a commitment. It's easy for them. Again, with the apps and everything, most women are looking for a relationship, and men know this, so they know what to put on their profile. And oftentimes, so they'll say that they're looking for a relationship also, but that might not be the truth. So if somebody tells you that, they're just want to see where it goes, that is a sign that maybe they're not somebody that is looking for a true commitment. So know what you want, know where you're going. Like if you want to have kids and a family, get married, or if you're somebody that wants to travel the world, be open about that and, stick to it.
So let me ask you a question, especially because of the way the apps have kind of made dating, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but do you recommend people to date one person at a time to get to know them and date them for a relationship and see if it works? Or do you recommend you date maybe in the beginning stages a couple different people and see which one might have that potential?
I think if you have the opportunity to meet more than one person, especially at the beginning, it's always great to get to know people and you learn more about yourself, especially if you're newly single after being in a relationship for a long time. I think it is important to just understand, who you are as a single person and how you interact and what you like, what you don't like. And that can take going on a few dates. But at the same time, I'm a matchmaker. I'm all about people, ending up getting married. And I like to see people, once they find their person, I like to see them commit and really work towards a relationship and that bond ultimately.
What do you think in your research and your work, what is the biggest thing that keeps people from committing and really going from that dating stage to a real relationship?
Yeah, well, that's just the world that we live in right now. Is our culture is all about bigger, better. What else is out there? And they're fishing, right? So, an app, all these dating apps, it feels like you're fishing. So you catch a nice fish, but you're gonna throw it back and see what else you can get. And I've heard stories of people getting back on the apps when their date is in the bathroom. So that's just where our society is, and some people are, anyway. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but I think, again, hold true to your values, who you are, what you want, and you'll find your person, because there's others like that out there.
And what are some of the things that you notice in terms of communication that people might be afraid to talk about or really get into when they're in the matchmaking process?
And piggybacking off of that, how is politics playing a role in how people connect?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of people on the apps, they are putting it right like front and center.
Yeah.
I won't date anyone that voted for Trump or whatever it is that how they feel. And with a matchmaker, people aren't afraid to tell us those things because that's our job. They look at us like we're their confidant, and so they can tell us all of these things. Sometimes too much, but we will draw the line. And so we focus on, again, who would be a good complement to them and their values and everything. But to answer your question about politics, it's definitely made a huge difference in the last, I would say, 5 years or so. And what people are open to, it's never been quite as divisive as it has been in the last, I would say, 5 years or so.
And when they're thinking about, I would say, Valentine's Day, and again, for couples that are together, is again, we talk about couples that haven't met yet, but now, like, you work with couples that have made it and are married now. What are some of the things for people in relationships to take note of on Valentine's Day? How should they approach this week and holiday to make sure that that their partner is really happy and feels loved, and they also feel like they're having a good time as well?
Yeah, it really depends on your partner and what they want, I would say. I personally, we don't celebrate Valentine's Day. We try to celebrate it on every other day except for Valentine's Day, or find some other time, because I truly believe you need to focus on your relationship and take care of your relationship every day of the year, not just on one day. And a lot of times people do these grand gestures on Valentine's Day in order to make themselves better in the mind of their partner. But I think it is important to look at what your partner wants and what they expect, because they may want something, so you don't want to disappoint them. But I think it's more important to maintain the relationship and do a good job on every other day.
April, can I ask you a quick question about being a matchmaker? Did you happen to see The Materialists by any chance?
I am. No, I refuse to see it.
You refuse to see it. Okay. So, do you mind if I ask why?
Well, it was just frustrating to me because I heard there's a scene about there was an assault apparently in the movie, and they acted like that's just like something that happens all the time. And no, it's not. That's not something that's normal for matchmakers or anything. No, I just didn't think it was a good portrayal of the industry, and was kind of perturbed. So I'm refusing, I guess.
No, that's a good reason.
Totally understand.
I think one of the things that's interesting among my generation is this idea of presence in relationships and in dating, of course, because of the things we're looking at right here, these phones. Now, what would be your advice for anybody out there in the dating world, how to be more present, how to take things slower and really be deliberate in meeting someone, getting to know them, as opposed to just breezing through it and being distracted and not really getting to know anybody. Because that's one of the biggest things I see in my generation with dating, is that people aren't present in the relationship or when they're dating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's just like anything, you have to be, you have to have your goals and work at it. So I tell people, like, if a relationship is your ultimately your goal to get married, have kids, all those things, you have to work at it just the same way you did for your career or whatever. Maybe you're in sports or something, you train and you practice, and you just have to be deliberate. And maybe it is putting it into your calendar and or making it part of your to-do list.
Yeah.
But I think it's like anything. You have to have discipline. You have to take yourself off the social media so you're not, just scrolling away and wasting your time. It's just, I think it comes down to discipline and like, who do you want to be? What do you want to be? What kind of relationship do you want?
Exactly. And asking those questions is so important. Like, it's more like self-reflection is what you're saying. Like having those internal discussions to make sure you're ready and you know what you want.
Yeah, and I would say do your homework and who are you? What books have you read about relationships? How did the last relationship that you were in, how did that end? And what was your part in that? Have you talked to a therapist or a counselor? Have you just figuring out like your childhood? All those things are going to show up and be present in your next relationship. So it's important to understand yourself and understand your triggers, because those are not necessarily your partner's problems. That is yours, and you have to manage it, because you're not going to find somebody that's not going to push your buttons. We're humans that are going to be interacting.
The triggers is so important.
April, if people want to learn more about Luma Luxury and they want to reach out to you and find love, how do they do it?
They can go to lumasearch.com, and Luma stands for luxury matchmaking. And just fill out the profile form, and we would meet with them and see if we can find them a match.
All right. Matchmaker April Davis, thanks so much for spending some time with us here tonight on the Live Zone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Tony P. Okay, so you mentioned being present, okay?
Yes.
I didn't do this story tonight on Do You Like It or Not, but I came across a headline that said 1 in 3 college students admits scrolling on their phone during sex. So talk about being present. You know what that says to me, Tony P?
What?
Bad sex.
It does. I mean, I'll tell you something.
Sex.
You know what? And I'll say this. I mean, it goes to our generation. We're very distracted, all that stuff. You really have to think about, it's a partnership in all ways, whether it be life choices and trying to take on the world and careers, especially, physically as well. Again, it's, you have to think about being for your partner first. In my opinion, you have to think about that. And I think it's important to really think about their needs. Is one thing that, that I'm working on too, with like my lifestyle being so crazy with the 9,000 things that I'm doing, is trying to make sure that I'm intentional in how, I make time in my relationships. I want to be there and I want to be present. Yeah. And I think you have to, again, having schedules, putting it in the calendar, making sure you spend quality time. My biggest problem is I'm always on my phone working when I should be present with my partners. That's a big thing I want to work on as well. And it's a part of the generation. During sex, that's kind of embarrassing for our generation. I'm sorry. I mean, there's also a study that came out that 26% of SpongeBob SquarePants viewers are non-married adults with no children or not in relationships. So maybe that's the reason, because they're scrolling during sex.
So I brought up that movie Materialist, and part of the reason I did that is because I did want to ask whether it's okay to date potential, as in what you might see that other person living up to, as opposed to what they are right then. You could write a million think pieces.
Potential
about that
money,
movie.
yes.
I did find it interesting. Tony P, we could have that. We'll save this
Oh yeah,
debate.
but not like,
we'll
if
save
you're
this
not good
debate
here.
for another night.
Nah.
Just a reminder before we go, Fox News reporting that one person has been detained in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. She has not been found. We'll have updates on this story coming up right here on Fox 5 on air and online, and right here on Fox Local and Fox 5 News at 10. Thank you so much for joining us here tonight. For Tony P, I'm producer Chris. We'll be back tomorrow night, same time, same place. Have a great night.